Welcome to the But She's Your Mother podcast, where we talk about all things related to being raised by narcissistic parents. Our guests are adult survivors of child abuse. Please note that this podcast is intended for mature audiences and may feature topics such as emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, domestic violence, self-harm, suicide, murder, and eating disorders. Opinions expressed by guests and survivors are their own. Some names may be changed or blocked out to protect minors, victims, and survivors. Thank you for listening to But She's Your Mother, the podcast. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me on the But She's Your Mother podcast. This is our very first episode. I'm really excited to have you here. Amy, you and I met actually on TikTok because you are a cycle breaker just like me. The first question I want to ask you is about your growing up experience. What was your experience growing up?
The first, I would say 15 years were pretty tumultuous. I grew up in a home with an alcoholic mother, and in the beginning years, it was just me and two of my sisters. The other two came later after I moved out. But when you have a mom that's drinking every day and at the bar every day, so it was basically a life of me raising my sisters. So when everyone else is talking about the 80s and My Pretty Pony and all these little ghetto blasters, we didn't have any of that. My mom was at the bar drinking the child support check, and she was, her excuse is she was a young mother. She had me at 19, so by the time she had her third kid, I was in 5th grade. But that was probably one of the harder years, because that was the year I was in 5th grade and I was supposed to be going to school and doing my states test and having fun with friends, and I was raising a baby. So it was rough years. I had to grow up really fast.
How was it that you were able to go to school? Were you able to go to school, or were you truant, for lack of a better word, a lot? Were you out?
I think we did miss a lot of school. I remember missing quite a bit of school when we were kids. However, yes, I did go to school. I loved school. School was my safe space. And I lived in a really small town, so everyone knows everybody. And I had some really great teachers and friends growing up. So it was a great experience for me to be at school.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's the escape from our household, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me a little bit, or a bit actually, how did the no contact begin for you? What was like the breaking point? What led up to it?
The initial no contact started mostly when I moved out when I was 15. It was a very difficult decision because I had to leave like my baby sister I had been raising since 5th grade, and now I'm a freshman. That was a lot of guilt for a lot of years. I've actually apologized to her for that a while ago, and we exchanged a really nice text message. This was before my TikTok. Yeah. But I was no contact on and off for a few years.
I want to back up a little bit though.
Yeah.
You said you moved out at 15. Where did you go?
I moved in with my dad. So my dad was back in town. I don't know what years. He lived in Fargo for a few years. So he was back in town, and he was definitely the lesser two evils. So yeah.
So you go to live with your dad at 15. Did you go back to your mother's at all at that point? Did you see your sister? I mean,
yeah, I did. I mean, of course, I kept contact. We only lived a few blocks away. So, and my mom didn't have a lot of money. So those were the years I would work at the dairy bar, and I made $4.25 an hour, but I worked a lot, like 5 to 8 or 4 to 10, almost every day. So in high school, I made like around $800 a month. So of course, yeah. So of course I would still, help pay for diapers and antibiotics and clothes and anything that needed to be paid for. My mom often had the heat and electricity turned off. So there was always that weight still on my shoulders to like have to worry about somebody else while I'm trying to go to school and have a boyfriend and all these new things. So
That's really sad. I
yeah.
mean, to be 15 years old and you're already an adult. I mean, you're working full
Oh, for sure.
to go to school and balance that life and grab what little bit of a childhood you can. But there is none because you're
Hmm.
constantly worried about what you need to do next to take care of your little sister. And even it sounds like you were worried as much about taking care of your mother too.
Yes, I definitely was more of a mom to my mom. She was to me. She's even accidentally called me mom a few times on the phone, and then she'll feel bad and she'll call later and say sorry and whatever. But yeah, it was I will say when my mom was older, she was nicer, but she also drank even more. Like when in the younger years, she still had a job for part of that. She was more of a functioning alcoholic, but she really was at the bar almost every night. I mean, I know the number to this day of all 5 bars from my hometown from when I was a kid. I don't even know my husband's phone number. It shows how much she was gone. And she was mean back then too, like when we wouldn't fold our drawers, our clothes perfectly in our dressers, she would come down in a rage and dump our dressers out and clothes flying everywhere and you know threaten us, you're going to go live with your dad. And of course I think wanted to, but she was really mean when we were little. I was terrified of my mother when I was small. It was probably when I got older and I could give her money that then I'd get a little pat on the head,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're my little angel. And I just fed into that because I was so desperate for any little attention she'd give me. And I'm like that to this day. I still sometimes think about my mom and, wish for things. But she's, it's over now. So,
Yeah. So you move out at 15, but you're still taking,
mhm.
so you're not really nor no contact for obvious reasons at that point. What was the thing that like broke it and what happened leading up to that?
I had been giving my mom a lot of money and help with, I think she had the twins by this time. I think I was a junior or senior in high school. And helping quite a bit. And then my sister comes over one day with a bill on it and says, here, I found a bill on mom's microwave. And I'm like, I'm in high school. I don't have any bills. What are you talking about? She's like, well, your name's on it. So of course, I open up this bill and it's an $800 phone bill for her landline that she put in my name and then couldn't pay the bill. So I was calling AT&T and we were trying to figure out the only way for me to get not charged at $800 was to press charges and file a report. Of course, now I would do it differently now, but I think I was 17, 18 at the time. I know I was starting to think about college and those types of things, but um, I wasn't going to press charges on my own mother. Like that weight was heavy. Like, God, I'm going to put my own mom in jail.
Yeah.
Well, if I didn't do it, I couldn't have a phone in my name for 7 years. So I was in high school at 18 years old and I already had bad credit. I already couldn't get a phone in my name for 7 years. So like my college roommate, which is from my hometown, I still talk to her. She had to have the phone in her name. And that's really embarrassing to have to like explain that to people. And when you didn't do it. So it really affected me almost not getting into college. And then so that was the first 10-year period where I very rarely spoke to my mom, like at all.
Did you address that with her? Did you talk to her about that at all?
Yeah, yes, of course. I mean, she couldn't
Right.
deny it because she did it. But, she's throws on those crocodile tears and you forgive. And there's so many years you can sit back and see your sisters and your mom all at holidays together and you're not going to be there. And it gets lonely. It's hard. And you can't explain that to your friends who are all going home to their families for this big Christmas dinner or their Christmas shopping with their family and stuff. So you just kind of, how it was in the 90s and early 2000s. It was, you only have one mother. Oh, you need to forgive. You're going to have restless heart if you don't forgive, and you're not going to have a good life. And, so you really get forced by other family members to forgive. And then I went back around 30-ish, and she stole my identity a second time. So, it was a cycle. I went back a few times. The official time where I went back was my grandfather died a couple years ago, and I went back to say goodbye. And I was really close to him because I lived in our hometown. So like when my grandma had dialysis, or someone was in the hospital, I was sometimes the only one up there. Their own, no diss to any of their kids, but their kids didn't even come. It was me, their granddaughter, that would, show them where to go. I also worked at the hospital and I was a nurse. So, there's that. But I was really close to my grandpa, and she was very fixated on the inheritance, how much she was going to get. They tried to get the one sister off so the brother could be on it. And it just was this really big thing. And then she really, most of the conversation where I'm grieved, this is my grandfather that I'm close to, she really made the whole thing about like herself. And I really could see who she was as a person. She was really, I think something that really turned me off is my aunt was coming in from Seattle, and my mother was very excited to report that she'd put on a lot of weight because she was always skinnier than my mom, and my mom had this jealousy over her. And she talked about it constantly, and like, oh, wait till you see Joyce, she's put on a lot of weight. I just, all that old rhetoric from that crap I used to be surrounded by, and now I'm not around it. I live in the Twin Cities, and it's a different environment here. So I just think that, and then she did some other things after that. And I just finally said, I'm done. So I spoke to one of my sisters, and I told her I don't know what happened. I feel like, have you ever watched the show where there's a pilot and he's drinking and he keeps telling all these lies to get out of it, and the stewardess is getting blamed, and I don't remember who the actor is, but at the very end, he's going to get by with it. He's out. He showed up in court and he just couldn't tell one more lie. And he just tells on himself and goes to jail. I feel like that's where I was at, is I just couldn't keep it in for one more day, one more minute, one more second.
Is that because of the contrast of having, like, you were essentially, it sounds like, no contact through university until you were 30, but for maybe times going back in, do you think that part of that was because of the contrast of having been away for so long, that now when you went back in, you kind of went, ooh, this is worse than I even remembered? Or there was
I think
that as well?
I think it's a lot of that, but you're always, I don't know how other people feel, but I was always desperate for my mom's love. Any little time I could get a pat on the head from her or anything, and I still do it. I'll tell you, there was a few months ago, just the beginning of summer, I bought a brand new pair of white tennis shoes. They're so nice. And my mom loves all white tennis shoes. And I literally was thinking, God, I should get 2 pairs and I should send her one. She would flip when she opened these. She loved them so much. And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? You're not even talking to your mom anymore. But I literally was in that moment, and I was thinking, God, why do I still do that? I still want to please her. I'm still eager to please her, even though we're no contact.
Well, I think it's more than eager to please, right? I think that when you've never had a mom, and what brings about some glimpses of what you need her to show up as, like,
Yeah.
something that she loves, where she can appreciate you in that moment because that's what she wants. It feels like you almost have a mom in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a big wound for all of us. People will ask, do you miss your mom? And I'm like, I didn't have a mom. Do you miss your mother? Well, no, I miss
Yeah.
she never was. And that's a big shift in identification, right? Because a lot of times people say, well, I miss my mother. And I'm like, well, what do you miss about her? And they're like, oh, identity theft? I don't know.
I miss the fantasy that I had that someday she'd go to rehab and someday I'd get the mom that I needed.
Yeah.
And that fantasy, I think it was erased. But I did go back, and I know a lot of victims go back to their abuser at least 7 times, and I did go back quite a few. And I look back now and think, God, she stole my identity twice, and I still went back after the second time. So I just think it also shows how unhealed I was back then, but it also shows how strong that narcissistic family system is, where I felt if I didn't chug booze and smoke ciggies behind the bar with my mom and my sisters, I wasn't going to be part of that. And I didn't fit in. I was weird. Oh, you think you're better than everybody. And I heard that a lot. And it's hard to not belong to a family, it's hard not to fit in, but then you have to choose, like, what do you want for your kids? And so you break the cycle, but it was a lonely journey for me.
How did you manage to get through like high school working so much and then university and get a degree? And like, did you have any emotional support, any family support during all of that?
None. No, I worked for 3 or 4 jobs during college. Nobody paid for one book, one student loan, nothing. I paid for my own dentist bills, my own car, my own apartment, everything. So the first couple years I would work. I've been blessed to be high energy, so I was lucky for that. I would work during school. I'd work every Thursday and Saturday night for a man, and Daryl Adams. He's passed now, but I guess to answer your question, he really was a pillar in my life that believed in me. He was very wealthy, very successful, never hit on me, nothing like that. It was really like a dad relationship. And I met him through a boyfriend that worked for him, and they just saw something in me, and I didn't see it because my self-esteem was so low. I just thought I'd live next door to my mom in low-income housing. Is kind of like what I was trying to avoid, but he really gave me that confidence, and he gave me a good job and let me work whatever hours I wanted. So no, I had zero family support, but I did have a good friend group. So
Yeah, it's not the same though, right? And
no.
especially you graduate and you actually achieve what you've been working for. And this is what I think a lot of people don't understand: when you end up having to go no contact, it's not a choice. It's either it's a literal, it's you or them, right? You either
Yeah.
be in a relationship with them and you're forever going to be sabotaged and abused and unhealed and carry on this
Yeah.
to your children, or you choose yourself and you better your life. Those are the options. And people don't realize what a lonely choice, not that that can be, but that it actually is an incredibly lonely choice. Because like what you said earlier, people celebrate with their families and they're doing all these things. And, I imagine at your graduation, watching other young adults have their families show up. It's bittersweet, right?
Yes. And my parents did come to my pinning ceremony, but it was a huge fight, and because they
Yeah.
still wouldn't be in the same room together. So my sister did get them both there, and I was the one. They always honor one person as like the most, I don't remember what they call it, but I was the one honored too, with like having the best grades and the most growth and stuff. So but I had to fight to get them there. And so it wrecks the moment when you have to fight so hard to make someone to be there. So they did come, but they were forced. I mean, I was in track for a couple years in high school, and I was pretty good. We got first in something. Our 1500 meter relay always got first. And after 2 years, I quit because I had no family come to any track meets. Zero. Nothing. And that's so humiliating. So there's a lot of times I gave up on myself